And I'm going to talk about personal drivers, which actually is not so different from the experience she is embodying at this very moment right now. I'm going to actually have an interactive conversation with you all where we see how sometimes our personal drivers may be to service of us. Okay, no worries, Oscar. Maybe to service of us because we think it brings us far, it gets us to places, it helps me develop myself, etc. Today, I'm going to actually have you reconsider whether they're really helpful for you or maybe even your biggest obstacle. Personal drivers usually are connected to the definition of self, of I. I am a perfectionist. I'm the one that is very strongly driven. I am a challenger, whatever definitions we give ourselves. But what comes with it is immediately also the exclusion of all that we are not and that we don't want to be. I introduced the session by saying this is a session for people who are not afraid to not play it safe. So I'm going to introduce you to also share yourselves beyond the preferred version of yourself to discover what's really going on and what have we tried so far to make that better, improve it, fix it, bring it to the next level, whatever you want to call it, but not yet quite haven't got to that point. Sort of the issue we're struggling with pretty much for our whole life already. Recognize some of those, or are you free of those? And then we tell stories. Then we tell stories about what we should be, how things would be better if I'm only no longer nervous, or if I'm only no longer insecure, if I'm just a little bit stronger, if I'm just a bit more brave enough, if I just have Excel more under control, whatever stories we tell, it doesn't matter. Then comes the whole story, but there's always the gap that we sort of deny and that we then walk over with the mental concept of that we're going somewhere, and if only there we are doing fine, then we can tell ourselves the story that we are on a journey. So whilst we're keeping ourselves confused with the idea we're on a journey, we're denying reality. And this today is a reality check and to check in with ourselves, what's really going on beyond the stories we tell each other. I love your cat, Celeste. I'm sorry, I got distracted. It's so beautifully sitting there. Lovely that it's participating. So for the people who came in late, this is not for the people who like to play it safe. I'm going to ask you to put yourself out there and to write in chat, what's that one thing that you have been struggling with pretty much your whole life, have done so much, probably even made you become a consultant or a facilitator, coach, whatever, that drove you in the first place, but it has not yet been accomplished as you wish it ideally. What's that one thing that you're struggling? I'm gonna give you some examples. I have to be perfect, my perfectionism, my insecurity, my need for control, interrupting people, not necessarily listening, procrastination, timidness, too much outgoing, going into firefighting, solving problem, being a pleaser, helping others, whatever it is. Write it, please, in your chat. What is it? Okay, let me have a look. All of the above. Let me see. For me, it's emotional control. So, Waylud, emotional control is then the solution. Like being in control of your emotion would then be the ideal state. So, can I then interpret that one as lack of emotional control?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's one. Okay, imposter syndrome. Laureen, say more.
I beg pardon, were you asking me to expand on imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so you're saying imposter syndrome. So what is it that you feel in doubt of?
Yeah, so I think it probably stems from that perfectionism and low self-esteem. And I think perfectionism is quite often linked with people who struggle with anxiety and potentially even mild depression. I've struggled with anxiety all my life, and part and parcel of that is always feeling like other people are more knowledgeable, more qualified, better able to cope with certain situations. And I think that's that tendency to want to shrink back and not necessarily live up to your full potential is something I've always battled with.
Got it. And thanks for telling the truth, because this is very weird for some of you to hear, but you just told the truth. You're not good enough. Other people are better. You're absolutely not smart enough, not intelligent enough, etc., etc. That's reality. It's undeniable. Do you notice your mind protesting against this? It's exactly that what makes it linger. It wants to deny it. That's what the mind does. It does everything to fight it and resist it. And it hasn't worked so far. I'm not going to tell a pleasant message today. This is not for people who want to play it safe. It's the truth. I'm not good enough. It's undeniable. And the more I deny, the more I struggle I experience here. Desire to be inspiring, hopeless, Sally. Could you turn on your mic? I can't hear you. You're not inspiring now, Sally. I can't hear you. You're mute.
Screen. Here we go. Sorry, I heard you say hopeless.
Yes.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Exactly. So why would I say hopeless if somebody desires to be inspiring? I'm asking you all.
Because what inspires one person won't inspire another. So
Okay.
you'll be endlessly trying to please people.
So there's one. What else is there going on that makes it actually a hopeless exercise?
I found for me, sometimes I was looking to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
So as opposed to just expressing, I was putting it out there. And then whenever I find I need to be validated for what is a truth for me, it turns into this terrible, knocking, I should say,
Yeah. How do you feel, also for you, Sally, but for all of you, when you think the thought, I need to be inspiring? What does it do inside of you? Just what's the sensation you get only thinking that thought? I need to be inspiring.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
You might stop being real in a way because you're thinking outside of yourself instead of just being present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it feels a little bit disempowering because a lot of time I feel that it's people who tell me that I'm inspiring rather than I self-described, as inspiring. So it feels almost like I have to depend so much on you to tell me how inspiring I am.
Yeah. If I want to be inspiring, I make your business my business. And basically, I become a manipulator. I could be inspiring, but that has nothing to do with you. It has to do with, well, it has actually only to do with you, how you perceive me, and that has nothing to do with me. But me making that my business actually makes me go out of what could be inspiring in the first place. Sally, for me, you're extremely inspiring, but probably not so inspiring when you try to be inspiring. You can follow, right? Yeah, you're with me. So taking on too much and prioritizing their people needs above my own, okay? Not good enough, Doreen, emotional regulation, timidness, Oscar, confidence. So Zoe, confidence is the solution. So what would be the thing you struggle with there? You're mute, Zoe. Or are you gone? Zoe, you're not here? Or you're not here? Okay. Procrastination, okay. Being chaotic, busyness, being honest without being brutal. Yeah, It could well be that we perceive you as being brutal, that you have perceive me already as brutal. If I need to be honest, it's already such an act of vulnerability in the first place that now also even have to include how you will perceive it actually undermines strongly the reality I'm living. So also there, I can imagine the struggle. For me, I'd say procrastinating, lack of confidence, managing emotion, procrastinating, to be strong, to be perfect. Fixing, pleasing. I've always been a pleaser all my life, always wish for more confidence. Guardian, and using time for work on long-term projects. Okay, inability to give honest feedback when I feel hurt, if something is unfair. Anguish, terrified. You love not playing it safe. I love that. So to annoy new joining, we are very sure, but the mail is unable. Okay, she has shared that already. Okay, so interesting enough is that our mind tries to make some version of ourselves that's different from what you have written here. And interesting enough, that what is operating as an experiential reality is almost independent of the mind. Whether I want to be more secure of myself, I feel insecurity, full stop. But it's also a more practical day-to-day things. I decided, I love licorice. I decided not to eat licorice today, or at least not too much. I go to the gas station. I was going to only pay for the gasoline, and I see myself walking to the licorice bags. And I don't know why, but I buy a bag of licorice, okay? And I tell myself, well, I'll just have a few and that's it. So now I'm sitting in the car, the bag of licorice is sitting next to me. I open the bag and I start driving. So I decide I'm gonna only take one. My hand is going into the bag and it takes two. It takes two, so it already breaks the pact. So I sort of go with it. So eat those two. But now there's unclarity about the rule that I installed onto myself. So, okay, now one more. And that's it. Then I'm going to put the licorice away. I have my hand go inside and it takes two again. I eat those, but now the only way to stop it is to actually put it in the little drawer in the car. Okay, I do that to protect myself. And I heard, Oscar, you were talking about protecting yourself. So I protect myself, right? So, and that worked for a couple of minutes. And on a moment that I'm not paying full attention, I see my hand opening the door, getting the licorice out, and off I go. It seems to operate completely independently of my mind. How come? What's happening there? I have all kinds of stories here about what it should be doing, but it's not doing that. It's actually contradicting it. And if I'm gonna share my screen for a moment, here you have a tablet. Here we have me, like this. My mind tells me I want to go there, and it does exactly the opposite. This is a reality that we are living almost on a day-to-day basis. So actually an in-between question, where do you do things that contradict what you are intending to do? Give me some examples. And you could also use your mic. Where's your favorite addiction?
Saying yes to things.
Yes to things? Yes to what things?
You know, work-related tasks, right? So kind of saying yes to everything.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm intending to say no, but what is happening, I'm saying yes. Okay. Housework. I find anything to get out of doing. So I promised myself I'm going to do my homework and it's not going to do it. Okay. So we can recognize there's a mind and there's a lived reality, right? The same happens with the areas that we just described in chat. So I can now play the wise guy to you and start to give you some good advice based on my idea of who you should be. And I will do some. So Weilu, so just be a little bit more in control of your emotion. And Laureen, I'd say, you know, just don't think you're anything less than other people, okay? Janine, don't take so much and prioritize a little more. And Doreen, you're good enough, no worries. Just regulate your emotions a little bit better and all should be fine, Cameron. And Oscar, just don't be so timid, just speak up more. And Zoe, confidence is just about making a decision. I'm okay, just decide that. And Jenny, just start doing things, who cares? Don't procrastinate, no need. You're being so chaotic. So first thing, start organizing, Celeste, right? And Angela, just don't be so busy, say no to things. And Cameron, don't bother so much about how other people perceive you. You probably agree with me even when you hear this advice because you have said this advice to yourself a lot of times. Why is it not helping and even making you feel a little bit more guilty?
Because it sounds so simple the way you describe it.
Yeah, that's how simple we also make it in our mind, right? Celeste.
Sometimes when I think about it, is probably I like being chaotic. I enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the truth is you are being chaotic. It's reality. So the moment we try to think it's better to not be chaotic, we tell a story that we're not. Right? So why is it not working if I just give you this obvious advice that you probably have taught yourself already for the last 20, 30 years? Why is it not working?
It works sometimes, probably, not all the time.
So what was yours, Oscar?
Mine is timidness.
Timid.
I go on stage and do a keynote speech to thousands of people. So that's when I can act as if I'm an extrovert. But deep down, I know that I'm a timid person, but I fight that all throughout the way. Why do I fight that? Yeah. Maybe it's a fact that I have to shake hands with because I'm 50, right? I mean, I won't change. I mean, but it's something that I get fascinated with when I see the extrovert people and who are out there very easily being themselves with people. So
how come they're not timid? How come I am timid? What did they do? How did they conquer that? Are these questions that come to mind?
I think I'm born with it. So I know why I'm timid. Sometimes we're born, it's like my height, right? You know, I can't change how tall I am. I can't change some things.
So I love it that you're now not denying who you are and what you are.
Yeah.
And when you go on stage, that part who you are is being denied. This is what I hear.
A bit, yeah.
How does that feel to deny you?
Sometimes it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the chance to be someone else.
Yeah, temporarily. It's also when I moved to Spain for a while, then I was completely unknown to everyone. It's a gift of freedom. Yeah, I agree. So beyond that, how would it be if timidness was not necessarily the problem, but was actually the main driver for you to communicate from also on stage?
Exactly.
Then how would that be?
Yeah, that's something to be embraced, right?
Well, you're not embracing that. So at the moment, it taps into a new hopeful story that one day I'm able to do that. But reality is that's not what you're experiencing, not even as possible.
No.
Right? So that is where we are. So try to be somewhere else and jump over our own evolution is harmful. So wherever we feel that there's a message here today of something that we should be, could be, would be better, is actually burdening yourself with more guilt, and it's harmful. Today is not about giving you extra burden, it's about exploring what's the truth. So rather than giving you advice that taps into the mind and the mental concepts. Let's see what's really the driver underneath. So what is the belief that tries me to move away from that what is undeniable? What is the belief?
Lack, maybe.
So Angela, what was your typical behavior?
Busyness.
Busyness. Okay, so what do you try to accomplish?
By being busy, what am I think I'm trying to, if I understand your question right, what I'm trying to avoid, or what my...
Well, that could very well be the ultimate goal, to avoid something, to intend to attain something or achieve something, typically also has something in it that is avoiding something else. And since you're going fast, let's go there. So what are you trying to avoid by being busy?
First thing that pops up is being me.
Uh-huh. And how would you describe me?
It's kind of myself being, again, it possibly comes back to this not good enough, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm busy, then you can't really see me and kind of know who I am.
Yeah. So I'm the woman that is not good enough. And as long as I'm busy, I'm not bothered with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for telling the truth. Or not denying the truth. The mind wants to deny it, by the way. That's what it's programmed for. It tries to escape from that reality as if it's the most evil thing we need to move away from. What becomes possible if you would not deny this as your day-to-day way of living and being?
Well, I'm noticing even just recently more acceptance and calm, just peace, presence, enjoyment, fulfillment of the moment.
Yeah. That's also my experience. And the being busy typically has the one day someday in it that brings you that calm and peace. If I'm only busy enough and accomplish so many things, then I finally can relax. It's only problem is it stays a one day someday always. So here you are. It's already who you're being. And we think we need to get it somewhere, to do something in order to be someone or something. So have a moment and write down the belief that you see is sitting underneath as a driver of the behavior. What's the underlying belief? See if you can detect that. So, Cameron, when you say I care too much about what others think, it's true, it's a belief, but it's actually judging your behavior. So it's not necessarily clarifying the behavior, it's actually burdening yourself with an extra judgment that you're thinking too much of others. So the belief is not that, that's the criticism you have about what you're doing. What's the underlying belief that makes you want to please the other person?
I see your point. So then this would be, I feel I am not good enough or I'm not suitable.
Yeah, you're not suitable. Yeah. Yeah. How does it feel to try to be suitable? How does it feel? I should be suitable.
It's hard because I pretty much in every situation I wonder, do I belong here? Am I one of you guys?
And you know the answer already. So the question is a subtle way to still escape the truth. So what's the answer?
I'm not sure.
Shall I help you?
Yes, please.
You don't belong here. Do you notice I tell the truth? How is it to not move away from it now?
It's interesting.
Yeah. Does it feel as bad as you imagined it to feel?
No, I think it's okay to not belong in every circle you're in, perhaps.
Who of you can recognize themselves in Cameron not feeling that you're belonging here? Okay, well, you belong to a group of people that don't feel they belong, Cameron.
Yeah.
And it's typically something that feels so much a thing we cannot share, we cannot talk about, that we do everything we can to sort of belong to a group of people that all try to belong as well. We all pretend that we don't belong. Or we all pretend the feeling that we don't belong, that it's not there. I don't know if you got what I tried to say, right? We all hide that. Yeah. So now it no longer making the problem not belonging, but actually seeing it's quite okay to not belong. Now what becomes possible?
So now you can be yourself, because the burden of feeling I don't belong and trying to fit in means you're kind of changing yourself. But if you accept that I don't belong, then you can.
So what seems brutally honest from my side is actually celebrating reality. So what becomes possible in your relationship with others? You don't belong. Now that that is not denied, what becomes possible in relation to others?
Can be more honest.
Mm-hmm. How does that improve a relationship?
Honesty is like so key in relationships. Actually, it's actually better.
Probably, but some people cannot stand the truth and they may move away from you. That's reality as well. So they prefer to play a game of I'm not like that. May not be the people you want to be in a relationship with in the first place, but that's a different story. It could be that we are temporarily disturbed by your truth. But usually people are relieved by your truth, because whatever you're experiencing and no longer hiding is what we all have tried to hide, and it didn't work so far. Lovely. What becomes possible as a team without the denial of not belonging?
Sorry, what's the question again?
What becomes possible, you being part of a team, could be either your own team, your lead, or the team that you're part of, when not belonging is not denied. The feeling of not belonging is not denied. What becomes possible for team?
I guess the sense of not belonging is also a sense of vulnerability. And when vulnerability is present, it opens the door for more candidness, more authenticity, and some real collaboration, the opportunity for real collaboration.
Yes. And the interesting irony is that people feel more belonging.
As you said, they all belong to a group that don't belong here.
Exactly, exactly. And sort of a collective secret we all walk around with. I'm terribly afraid that when I start to have this chat with you all, that you will kick me out. And I will be confronted with my already lived reality that I don't belong anywhere. You could become angry with me, or deny, or argue with me. And now what do I do with my feeling of vulnerability to share with you what's inside of me? I don't belong. I feel insecure. I feel timid. But when I walk into a mental concept, also of concept of how I could be better, should be better, and it's typically what consultants do, and we are probably all guilty of that, that we have good advice for others, we actually make the burden bigger. Let me help you with a 9-step program to become less timid. You see? Thanks for that one, Cameron. Let's have a look what else you're writing. So the question was, what beliefs are sitting underneath? So Laureen, I have to live up to other people's expectations. So what I noticed with you, Laureen, is you have a tremendous ability to immediately relate where the other is, to connect with where the other is and relate to them. But I can also see it's also developed as a means to avoid something. So you're not living, by the way, you're mute. So you're not living up to other people's expectations. What's the problem?
So I should imagine that by potentially empathizing with other people and mirroring and reflecting their beliefs is that I don't have to put my own beliefs out there, and therefore I don't set myself up for potential failure, and therefore nobody can say, you're not living up to my expectations, you've fallen off this pedestal, you're not living up to the potential that you had as a child, whatever it might be.
So what's the truth?
Well, the truth is that really it should be about my own expectations, I suppose, and not necessarily trying to live up to others. Because
that sounds like incredibly... a good story, but that's not the truth, Laureen.
Oh, you.
What's the truth?
Well, the truth is that I don't know how to live up to those expectations.
Okay, so we're getting closer. So what's the truth? What's undeniable?
That I'm not good enough.
And more specifically, that you're a failure.
Don't make me cry. I really don't want to cry.
Yeah, and what typically makes us cry is not the recognition of the truth, but the attempts we have had in our lives to try to avoid the truth. That is where our pain comes from, and typically also what comes up the moment that we are not denying what's true. And beyond the response, the emotional response that's also there, give me 3 reasons why you're actually a failure. And for all of you, don't wait for Laureen, but please, whilst Laureen is talking, give me 3 reasons why you're a failure. Please write in chat. And meanwhile, we're listening to Laureen. Why are you a failure?
I have learnt the hard way that I tend to jump into situations without thinking, so feet first, which, you know, whilst I have lived a full life, I have also learned some very hard, painful lessons as well. So that's one that I'll put out there.
Well, that sounds like success, but I was talking about asking about your failures.
Oh, that does feel like failure to me. I've had 2 failed marriages.
There you go. So we can agree you're a failure. What else happened?
Gosh, I suppose having had an attempt when I was younger to build my own a writing agency, I didn't have the business skills or acumen or knowledge to be able to do it successfully, and I ended up going back into the corporate world, which was a safer, more structured environment, and I felt like I really had let myself down and that I had failed in getting a fledgling business off the ground.
There you go. Laureen, can we agree you're a failure?
I think I need a badge.
And can we agree on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, it comes out a little hesitant, but there you go. So, Loreen, can we also agree you're successful?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have learned a lot from my mistakes. So
Okay,
yes, I have turned that to my advantage.
Okay, so you have failed and you've learned from it. So you are both a failure and you're both a success. Undeniable, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I tend to focus on the negatives rather than the positives, but that's a really interesting way of looking at it.
Well, the truth is there. Trying to be one of the two creates the problem. What happens if you only try to be the successful one or the perfect one? What happens? How do you treat yourself?
Oh, wow, that's a lot of pressure for anyone, isn't it?
Well, how's it for you?
The wheels of my health and well-being start to fall off.
There you go. Yeah. How likely are you to become successful from that place?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all, no. And now the gap and the abyss becomes bigger and you need to hide more and pretend more. And, oh, horrible, horrible. What would your life look like without the thought I shouldn't be seen as a failure?
There would be no authenticity in it at all.
Without the thought, people should not see me as a failure. If that thought doesn't cross your mind, what becomes possible?
Just being able to show up as myself and to be a far more genuine individual who acknowledges that they have a long way to go, and also has some hard-won success.
How does that feel?
That feels like a much more positive story to remind myself of.
Well, do you need reminding yourself of something that is already obvious? You're a failure.
Yes, okay. I definitely want a badge now, but it's a badge of honor now, not a badge of shame.
Is it okay to be a failure?
Yes.
Okay. So do you need a reminder for that?
Well, yes, I suppose I do, but I'm shaking my head at the same time, so it's a bit of a contradiction. It's
Which should I believe? Which should I believe? The story or what we see? Okay, so the body doesn't need to be reminded. It knows that it's okay to be a failure. There's no problem there. It's the story that we have what creates the tension and the conflict. You may feel alone in this one. Let me read a little what the other people have written, Loreen, so you can join the club. Let's see. Where's the failure in the chat? Okay, Cameron says, I'm a failure because I haven't trusted others enough and it cost me relationship and friendships. Steve, I lost a great friendship. I bombed startup business. I went against my own values. Mark, I'm a failure because I was naive about how the interests of others opposed mine. What's the problem there, Mark?
Sorry, coming off mute. What's the problem there is that well, the problem is that I sort of dangle between trusting people too much and actually putting a lot of unfair pressure on them to be trustworthy, whereas I should simply face the fact that we are maybe not together in this and maybe they need something completely other than me.
Cameron, can you hear the judgment he puts on himself? Criticizing, right? So is that clarifying or burdening, Mark, these thoughts?
Burden.
Yes, that's the right answer. Great. You're playing along well. Wonderful. So who would you be without that thought? I don't remember exactly what you just said. So what was the thought?
The thought is that by being naive about how the interests of others can oppose mine,
yeah,
that I'm sort of putting a pressure on them to behave in a certain way that would suit my interests, and vice versa.
Okay, so other people should be more what, inclusive, collaborative, nice, kind of.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story about other people.
Yeah.
And on what planet?
Yeah, exactly. Venus, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Without the thought that this person should be more inclusive, collaborative, kind, what do you see?
Without that thought, I don't have to mind them so much, and they don't have to mind me so much.
Yeah. What becomes possible for yourself without the idea of how they should behave?
I can much more behave according to my interest and what I need.
Yeah. And what do you liberate them from?
The pressure to artificially harmonize with my interest, or how I like on Venus things to be.
Exactly. So you liberate two people, basically.
Yeah.
Lovely. Let me see what else. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Steve, I lost a great friendship. I bombed the startup business and went against my own values. Say more. What's happening there? Or what happened there? I can't hear. You're mute.
I'm even a failure at getting onto the.
You see, constantly failing. We're hopeless.
Absolutely hopeless. Yeah, it still is today a great fear of being excluded. So
yeah.
I tend to, I'll say yes to a lot of things that even may go against some of my own values, just so that I'm kind of still included. I want to be in the loop.
So have a closer look if you want, Steve. What's the problem? You're being excluded. What's the problem there?
I suppose in a generic term, you could say it's again a feeling of just not being good enough. If you know, the sense of if I'm included, well, I'm good enough. If I'm not included, then I get serious FOMO, and it's because I'm not good enough.
What's the problem about being not good enough?
So yeah, how do I fulfill my own expectations if I'm never good enough?
Shall I tell you the truth?
I'm not good enough.
Yes, you just told you the truth. Tell me how you're not good enough.
So actual examples, Jesse, or
yeah, why not?
So yeah, I failed a business. I never got the sales. I had expectations of people around me, and you know that it was because I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And in that process, I lost a great friendship. The friendship that I'd been at school with a guy from, you know, I mean, I'm 52 now. It was probably 12 years ago, so 40 years, close to 40-year relationship.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. How is it to not make that something we should not be?
I think in a way it's also kind of liberating, and I've done some work on this, and I've been to various people for help on this, but it is some degree of liberation when one does face that truth, because by what standards are you judging yourself, and what is that same story that you tell? So knowing that I'm not good enough is kind of paradoxically allowing me to share my work.
Yes.
Because, well, you know, gee, even on this platform, there are other authors that have written much better books than I've written, right? But that's the story I tell myself. So
yeah,
it's okay not to be good enough.
There's so much freedom there. Once you see that, it's the opposite of imprisonment. It's actually liberating. It's now you're good enough, whether you're good enough or not.
Yeah, I think it offered me, or still does, Jesse, because it's an ongoing relationship with my own story, and but it does offer me another lens. That if my only lens is I'm not good enough, well, that's kind of gets one into a relatively desperate place, I think. But if there is another lens that says, okay, I'm not good enough in this situation, or I'm not good enough, and I may not be good enough for the proposal I write or the business I start, there is a strange liberation through the other lens, which is, well, in some cases, I have been good enough.
Wonderful. So that may equally be a truth denied. So can I ask you, are you good enough, Steve?
No.
Okay, so now you're denying the truth.
Yes.
You want me to tell you the truth?
I'd love it from your perspective.
You're good enough.
Thank you, Jesse.
You don't believe me, huh?
I do.
You do. Wonderful. You're good enough. Yes. Yes. Who else agrees that Steve is good enough? Can I see hands? Some people think, oh, okay, now everyone. Yes, so you're good enough, Steve. And there's also failures you have made. So you could also say you're not good enough. How is it to not exclude one, but to see it's all true? What becomes possible?
Yeah, I think more possibilities become possible.
Yeah.
It's much like putting on another set of glasses or set of lenses. You just see, I guess, other possibilities. And thank you, Oscar. I've just seen your wonderful affirmation about storytelling. That I need to get out sometimes of my own story so that I can tell more authentic stories.
Yeah. Well, this is, for me, the most authentic story you could have told is what you tell today here. There's no pretense, there's no hiding, there's just exploring and recognition and sharing. Some people argue that if I let go of the idea I should be good enough, that I will not do anything anymore. Or I let go of my idea I should be perfect, then there's no use. Actually, my whip is my only driver. And if I let go of that whip, then why bother? So I fear to even reconsider that what I use as a whip for myself. What's typically your whip that you whack yourself with? Would like to share, what's your whip that you typically whack yourself with? Yeah, you should be stronger. And is the whip projected to other people, Oscar, or is the whip projected to yourself?
To myself.
Okay, I should be stronger.
Yeah, I tell myself you should be stronger.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
talk to yourself in the third person or a second person. Yeah. So it could well be, so I'm checking with you, that you may think that if I stop telling myself, then I will not act anymore.
Probably, yes.
So you should be stronger. Where did that push you towards? To which places?
To try things. It has pushed me to go out and try things.
Okay.
Be strong and try this. I mean,
forcefully you put yourself in there.
Yeah.
And
pushing me out to life, just.
Yes, and if it would be up to the timid one, nothing would have happened.
No.
You could be right. I'm not saying it's not true, but how does it feel to force yourself into life, imposing something onto the timid one?
It's very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the timid one feels like, just leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, leave me alone. Let it be, however it will be. Yeah.
Without the idea, I should perform, I should go out on stage, I should be in the worldly game. Without the ideas that you are noticing are very burdening, without the ideas, what would the timid one do? Without the ideas, that is all needed. Ask your timid one. Don't pretend. No, don't mentally construct it. But what is the answer from the timid one? What would it do?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know what it would do.
Okay, so we cannot know that then the game is over. We cannot know that.
Yeah.
But we have already concluded that for a timid one, that, well, then I sit at home, I'm not engaging, I'm not relating. We have concluded we cannot know that.
Mm-hmm. So now what I feel like now is, like, when you tell these, I have to give that version a chance. Like,
well, how does it feel for the timid one to not be burdened by the ideas that you should go out there, that you have to participate? Without those thoughts, how does the timid one feel?
Free.
Yeah. What does the timid one do when they're feeling free?
Go out and walk.
There you go.
Yeah.
So timid one starts to do things.
Mm.
How does the timid one feel going out to walk and not going into all kinds of have-tos?
Peaceful.
Mm-hmm. How does it relate to others from that place, if at all?
Probably calmer, from a calmer place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Without the anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Does the game stop here, or is there a whole new game starting here?
Starting.
Yes, but a game that is not exclusive.
Yeah.
To some parts, for some parts of you, and exclusive of some other part. Yeah. Alex, I see so many thoughts going on in your mind. What is happening? What are you processing?
No, I'm just reflecting on the kind of, it was more external, just thinking of the questions you were asking and how powerful it's been to see where it's brought people. And even if for me they're different things, mine was around emotions and kind of managing them, and it kind of brought me to a very similar place. When you go deep down to what the belief is, they're actually not so different.
I should not be so emotional.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Yeah, and why? It made me think, well, why can't you be emotional? What's not okay with being?
Well, we have created all kinds of ideas, particularly in the professional environment. It's not professional to be emotional. Well, you're just disconnected from the biggest power to create, to manifest, to relate, to include, to inspire. No, we should be professional, in control, rational, not show your emotions. Who told you that story? And this is not me asking you. Who tells us that story? And we believe it, and we're not exploring. What becomes possible if also in the work environment, professionally, emotions don't need to be denied? What becomes possible? It's a question for you, Alex.
No, and for me, it's not so much, I mean, it's work, but it's also outside of work, you know, and there are some emotions that I think are helpful in the action that I then have. And in some, I'm then frustrated with myself because I feel the emotion didn't get me. I didn't act as I would have wanted to, or I feel like having thought about it, if I had not let that emotion affect the way I'd reacted, I would have been happier with the way I'd reacted.
It's a beautiful story, but it makes you very unhappy if you think that thought. At least that's my experience. So if only I would not have had emotions, I would be happier. Now, what do we do to ourselves with that kind of thought? That's direct highway to unhappiness. How would you feel without that thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe it's not happy. For me, it's more kind of proud of yourself, and then that's where when you then go down into the belief that other people were saying is like, why do I have to be proud of the way I've reacted to something?
There you go. I love it. That you start to see that it's a completely hermetically closed loop that the mind is in until it's questioned like we do it, and question it not with another mental concept, but questioning it by relating it to what's undeniable true. What is there to not be denied? I'm emotional. No doubt about that. Now, only when the reality is seen, only then the mind can, well, then you wake up to the mind that you were identifying with. Then you see that it's not true what you were thinking. I should not be emotional. Well, that's not going to help. You are emotional.
And it's not going to happen as well.
No, exactly. So is it okay to be emotional?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. How does that feel?
No, my intellect gets it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then your work is not done, because then you read the story that it's not okay to be emotional.
Well, no, but I think in terms of when I think it through, I think, being, the emotion brings another layer, brings depth. I totally understand it intellectually, but then.
Okay, so let's take it one step longer, because you're more than your mind. And a decision is not necessarily on the level of the mind. Choice is in the mind, but the decision not. So I'm asking you now to make a decision if you want to. I'm emotional, and that's okay. Please make the decision. Say it out loud.
Yeah. No, I'm emotional. And I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm there yet.
So that's
can't
not
say
a decision.
it's okay.
Yeah. So mentally you will never be there. Never ever.
Yeah.
It's not possible. The mind cannot get that experience. It tries to conceptualize it. So I'm asking you now to make a decision which has nothing to do with the mind. I'm emotional, that's okay. And I'm doing the work with you. Huh? I'm here. I'm emotional. It's okay.
No, and
you recognize from outside when storytelling kicks in, eh, Oscar?
Yeah, well, it's also what emotions are okay, right? Because you're putting emotions in all of that, and there are some emotions that
Alex, that's the mind talking. It has categorized and it has judged. These are acceptable. You see how it works, Loreen? And now a decision, Alex. I'm emotional. It's okay.
I'm emotional, and it's okay.
Yeah, start to feel it. Yes, yeah. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels like I can ride that wave.
Exactly. Exactly. Welcome to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beyond the mind. It's undeniable.
Yeah. It's a scary wave to ride. But...
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And there's also excitement.
Yeah.
And emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly. I want to cry now, says Oscar, yes. And lovely is people know this, what we talked about today. You all know this. But hardly ever do we hear it so clearly and openly as we have talked about it today. But this is not new for anyone. We know this. How wonderful if it doesn't need to be denied anymore. What a freedom. Kudos, Alex. You can't believe how beautiful this was to witness. There's so many beautiful comments going on in the
Yeah,
chat.
I was just reading them now.
I mean, there's one thing is session here, but meanwhile, there's so much joy there. I think I'm gonna leave it with this. Thank you so much for having shown you and for not having kicked me out as I already expected, but it didn't happen. So I really deeply appreciate that. Lovely. It was a joy being with you all.
That was inspiring.
Lovely. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks, Jess, for bringing us there.